So welcome to our presentation on jump-starting your upgrade and activation decisions. I want to make sure that we take this time and give you as much information as I can possibly cram in there in as short a period of time, so there's very little fluff in this presentation. We're going to go right into key drivers and documentations. We'll talk a little bit about the technology and the infrastructure aspects of things. And then, the bulk of our time, you guys are going to want to see what's new, what's that new version look like, what are the things that you can see. And I'm going to try to cover as much as I can in 553 on the new features and functions and modules. Of course, I can't cover everything, but you should get a good flavor for it. And then we're going to talk about next steps. What kind of collateral can we provide to you to help you as you move forward in your due diligence? Okay, so with that, those key drivers, hopefully everyone is aware that our Max shop calendar expires in 2015 in all versions of Max prior to Max 5.0.6. So this will make it impossible to enter any orders with a date after December 31st, 2015. And upgrading to Max version 5.0.6 or later is going to be the only way to resolve this. Now, Max version 4 is certified to run only up to the pervasive version 8.7 database. Pervasive version 8.7 is older technology that has not been certified to work with Windows 7 or later operating systems. So as you upgrade your IT infrastructure with newer technology, you may experience compatibility issues between your newer computers and your Max database. So the only way to ensure compatibility with Windows 7 or later is to upgrade your Mac system as you update your IT infrastructure. And then, of course, Max version 4 is going to be sunset. A lot of companies are deploying IT infrastructures with Windows 7 or Windows 8, and it makes it important that we are certified to work in these environments. So as the technology that supports Max progresses, it's critical that we focus our resources in those relevant areas. So Exact will discontinue the support for Max version 4 effective June 30th, 2014. So hopefully that's kind of the bad news. So now we'll kind of move forward with some happier stuff. There are 2 documents that we will make sure you have or you should get, and I'll tell you how to get them, and you want to circulate them among your users of Max. The first is the enhancement history by module. So what you're looking at here is, here's the module, here's the description of the enhancement, and we also tell you what version it was added to the product. So if you're coming all the way from 4.0, this continues out. I can only fit so much on the screen here. And so you can see what's been added from version to version to version. So match it to the version you're on, and everything after that is something that you will see that is new. Now, there's like 6 pages of this, and that's too many to cover in a webinar. And besides, something that's irrelevant or insignificant to one person can be huge to someone else. I really recommend that you take a look at this enhancement list by module. And again, I'll tell you at the end of the webinar where you get this list. The final recommended document, there's also this bug fix history list. So for some people, there might have been something that you were waiting for. This list will provide you with that, again, by module. It'll tell you. So we put full visibility, full disclosure on both the enhancements and the bug fixes, because we want you to have that information. We want you to know what areas there have been fixes to. So the final recommendation of the collateral you should have in hand is, of course, make sure you have the most current version of the gold standard. So this is what lists what are all the supported versions and things like SQL and Windows, if you're running QuickBooks or Dynamics GP, it's important to have that. And these documents are on the customer portal, but again, I'll also provide you with other areas where you can get this information if you don't have access to the customer portal. Now, we talk a lot about what's new with Max, and don't worry, I'm not going to sit here and read you this list, but as we look at technology from your perspective, reactivation and upgrade decisions are not just about Macs. They do involve the entire infrastructure. And what you see here is just a few of the ways current infrastructures aid in getting a return on your investment in technology. And I just grabbed a couple of the key ones because I actually did an entire webinar on just the value proposition of technology that is recorded. So this was something, these were the ones, the highlights that I pulled out of that entire presentation. So basically what we're talking about is it's faster. Microsoft has deepened the integration among its Microsoft Office products and SQL. That has allowed us, you're going to see this today, it's allowed us to do a lot of things with Macs. You know, there's not a lot of pervasive experts. That pool is shrinking, and there's now a deeper pool of SQL resource, and they are standardizing a lot. Great tools for disaster data recovery, all of these things that that are not exciting to demo, but they are important points. Being able to incrementally get updates to Macs instead of having to constantly manually maintain that. And SQL is easier to install, update, create backups, all of that from Mac System Manager. And of course, your Mac's data is going to be more secure. So again, if you want the really technical, detailed version of it, there is a webinar called Investments in Technology. Again, we'll show you where you can get that information, but these are just some of the highlights on that it's not, your return on investment is not just going to come through the front door with Macs, it also is on the infrastructure side. And the bottom line of all of this is what we try to convey is when you look at just the high-level pieces in the number of areas that, you know, have to play together, they have to work together. The add-ons, Macs, all of these things. You know, the list can get bigger and bigger and bigger of things that might not start working together, and the farther behind you fall, the greater a number of changed pieces in play when you try to get current. So what we've seen is that worst case scenario is it results in a catastrophic failure of the system, and you get to find the needle in the haystack of, is it the hardware, is it the network, is it a software compatibility issue, as you try to patchwork quilt this stuff all back together again. So our point is, if you're way behind now, it really is better to bite the bullet and effect this change on your terms, not wait for that catastrophic failure. So this is what we're saying when we say, you know, get a technology roadmap and make sure you have that as part of your strategy in your yearly roadmaps moving forward, so that your cash flow on IT will typically have a nice gentle curve instead of a great big unexpected spike that wipes out any gains you thought you had from not going to the next versions of things. Okay, so let's get into the demonstration. Again, I'm not going to read this list, and because we're going to start with the new user interface, click down through all of these areas and end up with dashboards and Excel analytics. And remember, the whole focus of this is how we've used technology to enhance Macs. And just as a reminder, if everyone can please hit *6 to mute their line so we don't hear the background noises. Great. So everybody should be seeing my System Manager desktop. So when you log in to Macs 553, you're going to be seeing a new refreshed user interface. And I'm going to start out by addressing the shop calendar. So the shop calendar is now going to be in the database. It is no longer a flat file. So we have permanently resolved the issues on the calendar and the calendar expiring. So this is the new shop calendar. It is, of course, accessible from System Manager. And as we look at the new user interface, I'm going to go at the high level on how we've used this to fuel efficiency of your users. So we've got our tabs at the top, of course, of all of the functional areas within Macs. And we're going to the graphical user interface here and deepening our connection to that. So when we go into something like the Part Master, that's where this control panel comes into play. So instead of the normal click, 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 click through the activities, inquiries, reports, batches, etc., each user will now come into Max. They'll right-click when they're in an application area, and they'll just check and uncheck the activities and batches and inquiries and reports that they need most. This expedites their movement through Max and allows them to focus on what they do, not trying to navigate around things that they don't do. In addition, each one of your users will own these notes. So when I'm in the bill of materials, I can put my own notes on things that I want to remember when I'm in here. System administrators can enter notes that are accessible for everyone to see. So the whole point of this control panel is to allow each user to personalize Max in each area and also to facilitate communication among people within Max. So when I've got that, if I go over to sales order processing, I have a different set of shortcuts, and I can also put in different notes for this specific area. So it's really trying to facilitate that. And some of you might have noticed, if you look down at the bottom, I do have each area that I have open that I'm going to be moving through in the demonstration today. It's all pinned to my Windows taskbar. So instead of having to go back to System Manager, click on a tab, click down to shop floor execution, and then, oops, now I'm not in shop floor execution. Now I want to go over to inventory. I simply need to just click on the inventory icon pinned to the taskbar, and in my case, my Windows taskbar is at the bottom of my screen. So all ways that we're trying to facilitate more workflow with this type of functionality. So you've got the new user interface and the new control panel. Some of you may not have the user-defined field. User-defined field is a tool that allows you to go into Max, and under any of these tables that you see here, I won't read the whole list, but I'll use the customer master as an example and the part master as an example. So in the customer master, I basically am able to change my user-defined field labels if I want, and then I added a whole new screen. We call it a tab, and on that screen I added 2 new fields because there's additional information that my company needs to track. So how this works is when I go over to sales order processing, you see that available. It's called extended fields, and so I can click and I can capture that additional information. Okay, now from the other example on the part master. On the part master, I added a whole new tab called quality, and I want to track some inspection information. So where that comes into play, and I'm going to go ahead and close this out since we won't be coming back here, is when you go over to bill of materials, I now have a quality tab, and I can track this information. So we are further allowing you to personalize Max for your needs without being limited to just those user-defined fields that you get out of the box. I'm going to go ahead and continue on with some things in the part master since we are here. What you'll see here now is when you have your part notes and your BOM notes, we have added the ability to add the user stamp, so I know who added these notes and what date and time they added this information. So that allows you to track how current the information is in the part notes field. In addition, that is also available in the BOM notes field as well. So it does the date and user stamp for you. We've got a few things on our browsers. So for one thing, when you go in and we talk about the fact that, you can show a picture in Max, we also have our document linker that when you right-click on that part ID field, it's yellow. It allows you to associate multiple documents with this. So I can actually access my What's New PowerPoint. You can basically access any document as long as the person has the viewer on the workstation. You can get SolidWorks drawings, CAD drawings, any type of document extension because you're just going to hit new, and it doesn't care what the file type is. I mean, it's defaulting to a bitmap, but I can change to all files and go out and navigate to any document that I want and associate it with that field. And again, you simply right-click on that field to access that associate. On Part ID, I'm going to double-click on that to talk a little bit about what we've been able to do with our browsers. So a lot of people were used to the typical browser functionality, but now what we're able to do is you've got your basic search criteria here on the different things that you can search on when you're in a browser. But in addition to that, you're able to now sort by column header, and if you right-click, you can now export into a clipboard, Excel, HTML, text, or XML file. You're going to see this on the part master, so when you get that set of search results that you want, you can now actually work with that data outside of Macs. This technology that you see here is also available if I go over to purchasing, and I'm in the purchasing schedule. This is one of my favorite places for it, because with purchasing, if I want to double-click on vendor and I'm sorting and grouping all my vendors together, and then I can do that highlight and just drag and drop them all onto my purchase order to expedite my purchasing. But in addition to that, when you look at all these headers up here, there may be some columns that you don't ever use. So for example, we go down to the end, and here's the packaging field from the part master. That's actually something we've added. And if I would just want to sort and group by planner, and let's say, for example, I don't use manufacturing part control, I can simply right-click, and it allows me to select the columns that I want to display on the purchasing schedule. So the more information that you have that is specific to how you use Macs, the better people are going to be able to move through that system. And so it quickly and easily expedites getting my purchase orders in, and that whole grid functionality has to do with the advancements that have been made in the SQL database, using SQL as our database. Okay, so that's kind of the user interface and some high-level changes in Macs. Now I'm going to go into a few specific things in Macs. I have a component set up, and we're going to use this as an example. This component is a manufactured part, and it's serialized. So over on the inventory tab, you can turn on, if you have lot tracking and serial tracking, this would allow you to enter lot and serial numbers. But what a lot of manufacturers shied away from serial control especially is because if they're generating a run of 500, they don't want to sit there and key in 500 numbers. So we added this functionality called groups. And what groups do is it allows you to assign this part to a specific group. And what happens with that group, if we look at this group, ELE, it basically said, I want Macs to automatically create the serial numbers for me, and here's the starting and here's the ending serial number. Now it also works with lots and with the same thing. I'm going to use our example to show the serial number, but again, the logic and the functionality also works with creating lot numbers for you. Now I'll show you an example of that. Before I move on, this question comes up a lot with demos, which is, are the serial numbers only numeric? And no. The answer to that is serial and lot numbers can be alphanumeric. The only requirement is that the last digit of the lot number or serial number be numeric, because we're going to increment off that last number. So as you see here, I have an alpha in the beginning, but I had to have that digit, that number 1 at the very end, in order to, that's what the rolling serial number is going to be created off of for this particular product line. So let's take a look at how that works with that lot control. And by the way, I also have inspection required turned on, so we can take a look at that for some people who haven't seen that. Putting this into play for my, my manufactured and serialized component, we're going to pop over to shop order, and I went ahead and created a shop order for this component, and as you know, it's serialized. So when we go over to inventory control, after I issued the parts, Now I want to do receipt of this shop order for this M component 5, and that will allow me to put in my quantity, hit process, and as you can see here, it took, based on the quantity I entered, it said, okay, these are the next 4 serial numbers. And it's already pre-checked, so I would simply say, okay, and it did everything for me on serializing. Now, if for some reason I didn't want the next 4, I can go into advanced selection and deselect one number, and it will generate the next 50 over here if I need to cherry pick the serial numbers. So with that, I say okay, and now here's the part where it pops up and warns me that there is an inspection required on receipt of this component part. And that's how easy it is to use serial numbers, and lot numbers is the exact same way with that functionality that we've added to lot and serial tracking on adding groups. A lot of stuff that we did in lot and serial, because our traceability of MAX is one of the key things that our customers love about MAX. So continuing on with that topic, under activity, we've now replaced the as-built configuration with a product called visual as-built. So let's say somebody calls you up and says there's a problem, and we're going to have to do some work, and so we need to know what this configuration is. You're going to start with what you know, and in this case, maybe they said, okay, here's the sales order number, or I'm going to go in and start with that. And what I might know in this case is they said, here's the serial number of the final assembly that shipped out. And so I know that that serial number in hand. I'm able to search on that and say, okay, here's the assembly. And this assembly with that serial number now gets me back to the shop order number. With that, I can, okay, come over here. I've got the order number in hand. I'm going to plug that in. Here's what shipped out. And so these are the 2 ingredients that comprise this whole recipe. And we see this used by people who do recipes. We also do a lot of companies that work with the military or provide products to the military have to have this kind of ability to have this traceability. So once you've found those components, then you can, I'm just going to do a quick shift right click, and it will verify if there's a lot, how much of that lot went in. Once I have that configuration, I know here's my top level assembly, here are the components and raw materials and their lot and serial numbers if they had them, then I can save this visual as built and come back to this configuration at any point in time. Now this visual as built linker also works with a brand new module that we have, and that module is the recall manager. And to me, recall manager is more than just for recalls. And just by the way, I can unpin my control panel and get it out of the way, so I have a bigger workspace. So let's say somebody calls up and says, we think there's a problem with that part, one of the products in that recipe assembly. So you're going to bring up that part that you want traced. Okay, so there was that part in there. Now, I may want to look at it from a costing standpoint. I may want to include lot, non-lot. So this works even if you don't have lot and serial tracking. I can filter based on supply orders if I know a lot number, if I know a serial number. So I basically can put in all of the information that I want. And what's different about this than your normal transaction list is this is really going to tell you the story. Because this status here, that is going to basically tell you consumed means that it's been consumed into a shop order. So it went into work in process. If it's in stock, it means that it's on the floor. Excuse me, it's in stock, it's on the shelf. It's on the floor, it's in the process of being consumed. So the floor means it's still on the shop floor, the work order hasn't been closed. Consumed means it's been issued to the shop order, but the shop order has not yet, has been closed. Now, once you do that and I say, okay, so I know this, our ingredient 1, I got this lot number, and it went into this parent part. So there's all sorts of ways to get to the information. So let's kind of look at this from a story form. Total Top Providers calls me and tells me that they had a problem with this part or with this recipe, that one of the ingredients was bad. So I'm able to backtrack, and from the lot number that was sent out to them, I can then find that lot and trace it back to the ingredient and to the lot number on the ingredient. So I can go backwards and forwards, starting with the ingredient, or I can find the final product that shipped out and use that to go backwards to get to the specific lot of the ingredient. So this type of traceability then makes it much easier to try to find those. And in addition, if you notice down here, there's that recipe assembly. If I did the visual as built linker, I can access that from here. So we just built that, and it's accessible for me so I can see the composition of this recipe assembly. If I don't have the visual as built, I can create it at any point in time. So I can always access my visual as built, and if I don't have these linkages created, I can build them. So the recall manager works with the visual as built linker to be able to not only find that needle in the haystack, but also then save that configuration if you need to go back. Now, if you do have a situation where there is a recall and you're able to find let's say, okay, now we know that the problem from here came for this ingredient came out of this lot number. Now if I go ahead and filter on that lot number, 10005, requery that, now I'm going to go ahead and save this, and it gives it a recall ID. It saves the filters to make sure I can prove my results. Launch a recall, and then track the status. Make sure it's been initiated, completed, canceled. And then attach any documents. Any supporting documents get attached. But one of the key things is the fact that right here you know exactly who you've got to go contact and who you need to initiate that recall back. Because here's your sales order numbers, here's the customers that went out to. The rest of them, oops, you know what, it was consumed, let's go pull that. This is sitting on the shelf, we got to pull that out. So it allows you to manage those recalls effectively. Now we do have a recall report that allows you to just do all recalls or a specific recall, and then you can save this to a PDF and then attach it to your recalls as your supporting documentation. So it gives you not only the traceability, but also gives you a process to manage a recall should you have to initiate a recall. And there's the report. Then I did all of them, and it gives you that supporting information. So pretty powerful for those people who have to do recalls, but it's also very powerful for people who just need that advanced traceability capability. Okay, let's go ahead and move over. I'm going to switch gears now and talk about another new module we have very quickly, and that's the warranty tracking module. Warranty tracking module is for those people who want to issue RMAs, and it allows you to select the order it originally shipped out on, and then if it is on the order, and that is a serialized or lotted part, it allows you to specify the lot or serial that's coming back. It's got red and green color flash, and this is red because it told me that the labor warranty has already expired and the material warranty. If it was in warranty, these would show up as green. But the key functionality on RMA is that it allows you to track basically the process of was it created, printed, received, completed on returns for repair, returns for replacement, and returns for credit. So there's processes around these three instances with the new RMA module, including the ability to set up your defect codes in order to be able to do things like a failure analysis report. All right, so you're getting the quick 30-second version of these things. I just want to make a note that there are full presentations recorded on Recall Manager and warranty tracking available if you do want to see the expanded version, or we are available to assist going into greater detail in any of these areas. In sales order processing, a lot of people have seen quoting and estimating, but some people's versions they do not. So I just want to quickly talk about quoting and estimating. So with the quote module, basically what's beneficial about this is that quotes are stored. So quotes can be reused over and over and over again because you clone a quote, meaning you want to copy from an existing quote, or you can convert a quote to a sales order, but we always maintain the quotes. We never get rid of them so that they can be reused over and over again. Now, with the estimating side of it, what that means is when you go into the quote line item detail, there is an estimate button that allows you to load either the existing BOM and route for your part, or if you don't have a BOM and route already created, you can select the closest BOM and route, load them into this workspace in order to figure out what you want to estimate on any type of customization. So this is an Excel type of environment, and as long as you maintain this file structure, you can bring this information in and save it and reload it at any point in time. If you just want to kick it over into Excel, you can do that and work from Excel. So it's just very powerful, and any field that's yellow, you can update. And as you do those updates, it's going to update that total and use that as the basis that you would then use to create what the new pricing is going to be for this. Now, this works with existing parts, but if you have a brand new part that'll also work for you, all you have to do is enter in the name of the part, of the new part number here, and it's going to treat it as a non-stock part and allow you to go in and build that estimate. The key is that before you transfer this to a sales order, that part needs to be set up in the part master. So it does allow you to quote things that don't exist in inventory at the moment. But again, they need to be in your part master before you go on and process this and try to create shop orders or change the quote to a sales order. Now, the other thing, you have people calling up and saying, hey, I want something a little bit different. Can you give me an estimate or can you give me a quote? But the other thing that people also will do is oftentimes they're going to ask you, can you get this to me by this date? And that is our planning simulator. And let me move this out of my way and bring up the one that I had ready to go. So planning simulation is that customer calls up and says, can you get me this by June 15th? And they tell you what parts or assemblies they want. They give you the quantity of these parts. It says, and this is our critical planning lead time here. This is our start date. So let's run a little mini MRP basically, and let's see how well we can do. With the green and yellow and red color flash, yellow says maybe, green says you're good. Red down here is telling you where your problem areas are on your projected supply to meet that request date. Now, if you see there's a little orange button up there, if I hover over that orange button, it's going to give me the where use. So basically what it's saying is what else is creating demand for this component here? And it's these three other assemblies, or these three assemblies is what is creating the demand for this. Now, I also may want to go ahead and drill into the order detail inquiry so that I can see precisely what's going on and make some confident decisions about whether or not I can meet this schedule. Or if I actually want to, I can just display the affected orders by right-clicking and display those affected orders here. Now you're going, okay, well, this was billed to stock, or I know this person doesn't need it, or all of the different things that you can do to be able to confidently say yes. If you're not confident about saying yes, then you have the opportunity to say, okay, let's just kick these into a quote because there's still some research that needs to be done, but we don't want to lose this information. If you're good to go and the customer says, great, let's place the order, and you just create the sales order right from here. And so there's no repeating that data entry, and again, there is no losing this information or accidentally forgetting that you have to do follow-up, because the planning simulation tool allows you to take that next step. And this is going to allow you to do that forward scheduling based on their requested date. Okay, so that's the planning simulation tool with forward scheduling. We're going to finish up with a lot of new stuff in here. One of them is dashboards. Dashboards allowed us to take the power of SQL Server reporting services and create these views. So this is what we call our executive dashboard, and it's giving KPIs like your quote pipeline, sales bookings, gross margin, inventory valuation by location. So it's that quick look, but it also allows you to click on a column, as I just did, and drill back into the details that comprise that total. So this is one of those tools that if you want to take that next step and go to a more graphical view, management view of things, that you can do that. Now there are a number of dashboards. There's a sales dashboard, an inventory dashboard, purchasing dashboard, and production dashboard. They all contain the KPIs for a specific area with the ability to drill down. It also gives you the ability to export to PDF, Excel, or a Word document. And this, because it's SQL Server reporting services, it can be deployed over a web page. It can be a tab in Max. If you have Synergy, it can be deployed in Synergy. So basically it has 30 objects available out of the box, and if you are somebody who's trained in SQL Server reporting services or our professional services, can help customize them to the specific views that you want. So we're making great strides in the analytical capabilities of Max. The final piece I would like to demonstrate is actually not in Max, but it's going to take me to Microsoft Excel. As I mentioned earlier, there is much deeper integration among Microsoft products, including the integration between Microsoft SQL and Excel. And what I want to be very clear about is this is a service that we provide you, because we can't resell Excel, because Microsoft would be extremely upset with us. So what we basically did is we harnessed the fact that Excel now allows you to drill into a connection into a SQL Server table, meaning your Max database. We use this technology to pre-set up all of these reports. There's 52 of them here. And we basically set up reports that we get requested always. You know, people constantly ask us for this margin analysis by part. And so this allows you to see your part, your description, the order, cost, price, margin percentage, and percentage as well as dollars. So these are the hyperlinks. It allows us to look at, we set up scrub reports. So hey, let's go ahead and look at manufacturer parts with no bonds. Let's look at manufacturer parts with no routes. So quickly scrub your data, because the cleaner your data is, the better your results are going to be. We set up a number of audit reports. So let's take a look at actual lead times on our parts. Here's what you have. Here's what the actual is. Let's get our times cleaner. So again, when the better your information is in Max, the better your reports are going to be, the better your outcomes are going to be. So that's basically it. Scrub reports, audit reports, and your basic analytics reports in order to analyze your data in all of these areas. Now, once you have a report, now that we get that information in here by, once we have the reports in here in Excel of your Max data, now you're using the power of Excel, because now I can access this pivot table, and let's say I just put the customer bill to, but hey, maybe I want to see their customer ID. Now all you're using is your knowledge of Excel. You don't have to have knowledge. So what we're finding is that people who were tired of relying on one person to know crystal reports, with Excel Analytics, that frees up more people to be able to get the information they need without having to have a dedicated resource on Crystal. Now, we still use Crystal for the canned reports in Max as well as the forms in Max at this point in time, but this is just another option that allows you to get the data in the way that you want to see it. And so this was another tool that we were able to create based on the current technology. Okay, so that just gives you a sneak peek of, in the demonstration, we actually covered quite a bit of some of the bigger areas, and as I mentioned before, there's 6 pages worth of smaller things that we did that you will want to take a look at. Okay, and then one more thing. Max Anywhere. This is a product we are getting ready to introduce this month, and basically what it's going to allow you to do is now it's basically a web-based application that is designed to give you accessibility to your most frequently used Max features from anywhere with an internet connection, from iPads, iPhones, laptops, because our research showed that mobility of the ERP system is something that's now required far beyond just the traditional view of needing mobility for remote sales teams. So you no longer have to be limited to accessing Max from your PC. Max Anywhere lets your people go where they're needed to take immediate action instead of having to remember to pile up notes on a clipboard as they're running around and then going back to their desk. So if you look at our basic logic of what Max Anywhere looks like is on the side, for each area, it's going to allow you to access orders. In this case, we're looking at the materials. So any type of transactions you did from materials, inquiries and transactions. The same way you would do them in Max, you can do them from your mobility devices. So if you want to transfer, this isn't in the right location, let's do a transfer right now. Okay, we're ready to go ahead and do a purchase receipt. Let's do it right now. We don't have to run to a desktop. And when we were talking about inventory, it can even be set up to read barcodes. So if expensive hardware and has been a barrier to automation, Max Anywhere can give you new options to be able to get into some automation of material movement. And unchaining people from their desks. I mean, getting out on the floor and dealing with things in real time instead of the paper trail. It works with the labor tracking module that allows employees to log in and log out of orders using very inexpensive mobility devices. So again, each one of this area, so we've got shop floor, it's got the labor, it's got shop orders, it's got your inquiries. The cost of adoption of Max Anywhere is actually affordable because what you see is the layout is configured for the screen size of the device you're running it on. So think of the difference in the real estate available if you're going to do post-op completion and look at that screen on a laptop versus what it would look like on an iPad, versus what it would look like on a little iPhone. We've tailored the screen layouts for those 3 environments. The point is that Max Anywhere doesn't have to be configured for every company, so the implementation time and costs are really greatly reduced. It's kind of a what you see is what you get of your Max system. And of course, Max Anywhere is perfect for field sales and sales managers on the go. It's got key inquiries for sales managers to keep on top of what's going on. It's got dashboard views. It gives you the ability to enter your sales orders and quotes right from the mobility device. And just the final point I want to make is that Max Anywhere doesn't add functionality. It gives you web-based access to your installed Max application. So if you don't have, let's say, labor tracking, for example, you would not be able to log in and log out because you have to have the Max application. Again, you're just accessing it from your web-based device. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, there's lots involved to an upgrade, far more than just, dropping the programs on there. And what we did is we've created this worksheet here specifically for upgrades. And so in case that is part of it, we will make sure, are you getting a new server? Do you need any help? We are going to verify infrastructure. Do you have the right version of Windows, SQL, all of the software to support Macs? Do we need to make sure you get that? We'll verify your financials. Verify reports and forms. Do you have any customized reports and forms? We'll also verify your Mac's usage, because we want to make sure that you don't have a critical business pain that we need to address that is not dealt with in the version that you're on. And then we're going to verify your contract. We're going to look at and make sure that when you move forward, you've got the right configuration of your business needs today. If something changed and you no longer need something that you have, we're not just going to make you continue paying for something that you're not using. So again, we're going to make sure the configuration is correct for you. Now, you may have done everything, or you may want to do everything in-house, but we're still really happy to provide the worksheet questionnaire to your IT people so that they can do their due diligence. Also, our fabulous marketing department created 2 new websites. These are brand new for you to access a bunch of collateral that can be helpful to you. So there's the Macs Upgrade Resource Center that's got the enhancement list by module I was talking about, the gold standard webinars that are recorded, webinars that are upcoming. On each one of these, we've tailored the information depending on whether you're upgrading or reactivating. And this is going to be very helpful. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is wrap this up, and we're going to sit on this screen on the Q&A so that you can see where you actually access the Reactivation Resource Center or the Upgrade Resource Center, and also the customer portal. Even if you're active on maintenance now, you can get into the customer portal and access a bunch of resources. And if you're not active, when you do upgrade or reactivate, you will have access to the customer portal, and this is a great tool because it also provides access to a bunch of free on-demand videos if you're adding new products or you want to take advantage of some new features. You can view previously recorded webinars, or you can register for a live webinar from there. And a gold standard, I think, is also accessible from that by going into the Mac Start page. So you can get all the documents you need from there moving forward. And of course, there is always your account managers that are there to help you at any point in time. If you're not sure who to contact, you can call this number, or just contact me and I'll make sure you get to the right person, or contact Mara. We'll just make sure you get to the right person to get everything you need, because upgrades and reactivations they can be big, they can be complicated, but if they're done thoroughly, we can minimize the risks of having things go south on you, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So if you are muted, *6 unmutes the line, and we'll go ahead and open this up for questions and also any comments that you might have.